Vamos avançar para a última apresentação da parte da manhã. Vamos ter connosco remotamente o Daniel Jones. O Daniel Jones é um data scientist, é alguém cuja short bio que me foi enviada tem tanta dimensão tecnológica e tanta experiência em tantas áreas interessantes de negócio que eu não a vou ler. Daniel, switching to English. Thanks for joining us. You're totally briefed on who we are and what we expect from you. You, representing BBVA, also responded to the challenge of sharing with us your view, your vision, your perspectives on a specific theme that's on top of your agenda. I know you're going to be addressing, the topic of sustainability, several angles, etc. So we're looking forward to hear from you. Thank you for joining us once again.
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. It's an honor to be here today. É prazer estar aqui. My keynote is about data and sustainability. So I'm going to talk about. Yeah. Sorry, I was listening some noise in the background, so I'm going to continue, right? I'm going to talk about how those two concepts are extremely interconnected. So let's start off with data. As you know, data nowadays is an extremely important asset for companies. In fact, there are entire companies and business models that are built on data. So for the players in those new digital ecosystems, obviously data is the number one asset. But even traditional companies and industries are becoming more and more aware of the strategic value of data. And they are working really hard to position data in the core of their business models and their value propositions to clients. In the Western world, we act within a legal, moral, and ethical framework where data belongs to the clients or to the consumers, and clients grant companies the privilege and the responsibility to use their data in a way that creates value to them, to the consumers. So it has to be a win-win situation where both the individual and the company are gaining something. Therefore, companies nowadays are challenged to make that value tangible to each client, to each user. And if not, over the long run, the relationship between consumer and company is not in equilibrium, and therefore it is not sustainable. So at some point, consumers will either stop granting the use of their data to companies, or they will take their data elsewhere, where they feel that they are actually getting something in exchange. So this threat that I'm talking about, it's not going to materialize immediately, overnight, but as consumers become more and more aware of the value of their data and the risks associated of having their data disseminated everywhere, being used by tens or hundreds or even thousands of companies out there, they will definitely become reluctant to sharing their data. So then the main question for companies is, how can we create and deliver added value to our consumers in a tangible way at a massive scale and in a way that also creates value for the company or ultimately for the shareholder, right? So I believe that there are a lot of ways of doing this, that I would say that most data strategies can be classified in one of the following two alternatives. One is making our offerings more attractive to clients, usually using some sort of personalization. And I love this concept of personalization. I really think it's the key of being successful in the digital era. It's a clear lever for differentiation. So what we do is we take a plain vanilla product or service, and we add some features or attributes that are tailored to each customer. And this is not only at the product level, but it's the entire experience. It's about solving a customer pain point in a compelling way. So it's about how we wrap those products and how we deliver them and how we create meaningful interactions around those products, right? So at BBVA, since we're a bank, we're not Netflix, we don't have hundreds of thousands of movies and series to recommend. Instead, we have a relatively small group of core underlying products, right? So we use data for creating advice experiences on top of those core products. And we try to understand and to anticipate customer needs and to offer solutions for tackling those needs. The second strategy is more internally focused on the company and has to do with achieving operational excellence with a clear goal of efficiency and cost savings for the company. However, those cost savings can be eventually passed on to the customers by offering cheaper, more competitive products. And therefore, tangible value for them will be delivered as well. So in this category, we would include digitizing processes and offering end-to-end digital experiences. And if we do this well, it will have a direct impact on customer satisfaction as well. So it turns out that both strategies are pretty much connected. A lot of data initiatives that we see out there have ingredients of both categories. So this is why data is such an important asset for businesses throughout the world in general terms. It allows us to make products more appealing, and it helps us to reduce costs. Now, let's move on to sustainability. Why are data and sustainability totally connected? Since sustainability is a very broad topic, I'm going to focus mainly on climate change, and later on I will discuss social inclusion briefly. So those two topics, climate change and social inclusion, are at the top of our strategic agenda. Sustainability, and especially climate change, is all about measuring. So first, we need to measure the risks of climate change. Our traditional models for assessing risk are no longer valid. They've been outdated. They are obsolete. And they will have to be updated on a continuous basis in order to include new data and new models as they become available, as we know more and more regarding climate change. So remember that banking, financing is all about properly assessing risk. And our risk models are being disrupted. Second, we need to measure the opportunities. Let's not forget that sustainability is a huge opportunity for changing our economic growth models, for changing our industrial models, and for changing the business models as we know them today. And we also need to measure the progress that is being made towards the different goals involving climate change. Being net zero in 2050 is the most important goal, of course, but we need other milestones way before 2050, and we need those at a more micro local level. So you see, a lot of measurements needs to be done. And when we talk about all this measuring that has to be done, that's where data comes in handy. So we need precise objective measurements constantly. We've read here and there that achieving net zero is going to cost roughly $5 trillion per year. We're talking about a huge amount of money that is needed. So like in so many other scenarios, funding is limited, resources are scarce, and we need to deploy those resources into the economy, maximizing the effect or the impact that those resources will have towards achieving net zero. So this is a very complex task. It requires rigorous analysis and use of data. And it also requires plenty of good judgment, of course. If we fail, if by any chance the public and private resources that were intended to finance net zero are not allocated to the best uses possible, that means that some projects that could potentially create technological disruptions that would ease our way towards net zero, they could go underfinanced. In the worst case scenario, we could be depriving humanity of technological innovation that could save the world from global warming. So think about this. As you see, the responsibility is enormous. Banks deploy capital in the form of financing and investing our own funds and especially our clients' funds. So we need data-driven frameworks and methodologies for doing this as best as possible in order to create a multiplying effect of those funds. And this is not about simply divesting some activities and shifting all the financing to green portfolios. We need to finance the transition without leaving any of our clients behind. So let's think about housing, for instance. Most people live in houses that aren't energy efficient. So we need to help them undertake the necessary investments to achieve energy efficiency. We need to help those corporations and SMEs that rely on BBVA for banking and for professional advice. We need to help them also when it comes to energy transition and getting ready for net zero. So our goal is to make sustainability accessible for everyone, creating opportunities for everyone. Now, I would like to talk about a very exciting thing that we are doing in BBVA in order to bring sustainability closer to all of our clients and to create opportunities. Recently, we've launched carbon footprint calculators for individuals and companies in Spain and Portugal. BBVA is the first bank to offer this asset in both markets, and we believe that it's just the beginning of something really big. So leveraging technology and data and advanced analytics algorithms, we've estimated each customer's carbon footprint, making them aware of the magnitude of their environmental impact in order to start creating social conscience. So now I'd like to play a short video that explains very briefly what we're offering and how we did these calculations. The example that you're going to see is for individuals, for retail clients, but we've developed a similar solution for commercial banking clients as well. So let's please play the video now.
Finding out how much carbon you're consuming is easy. We can estimate it based on your electricity and gas bills and the payments you make with your BBVA card. See the section on sustainability in the app to estimate your carbon footprint and discover how to reduce it and save on your bills. This is your cumulative carbon footprint for the year. It's not that easy to be aware of how much carbon we generate in our day-to-day activities. That's why equivalences will help you get a clearer picture. This is a breakdown of your emissions by category. If you want the estimate to be more precise, you can add more receipts. The more information we have, the more accurate the estimate. Find out what categories you're emitting the most CO2 in. Click on Evolution to check your reduction target, view data for the year in progress, and compare it with last year's data. That will tell you whether you're reducing your footprint. Remember that every impact adds up. To learn how to reduce your footprint, access the Action section and discover ideas and tips on how to reduce CO2 consumption and save. And that's not all. BBVA is committed to sustainability, and we want to present you with a catalogue of products to help you reduce your impact and make your mobility, home, and finances more sustainable. This is only the beginning. Help us create a greener and more inclusive future. BBVA, creating opportunities.
Already have the carbon footprint calculated with household energy consumption, power and gas, and car fuel. So that's the current scope. The next step that we are launching very soon is the carbon footprint associated with public transport. And that will include air travel, it will include trains, it will include urban public transport systems such as metros, buses, trams, taxis, and some other means of transport. So you will be seeing this very soon in Spain. Later on, we could increase the scope and try to reach all customer purchases, the entire consumption of a person, the direct and indirect emissions. The indirect emissions are those generated to produce the goods that we consume. So this part is not as straightforward. It's not as easy to get the data right, the emission factors and so on, and it's not obvious how to activate it afterwards, right? So we are currently deciding internally what's the best approach. Another important line of action is making the advised recommendations for carbon reduction more and more personalized. Remember how I mentioned way at the beginning that I really believe in personalization as a lever for making an impact with data? So the recommendations that we have so far are moderately personalized, if you will. But the final goal is to offer tailor-made advice and solutions for each customer using advanced algorithms. So we continue working on this really hard. The carbon footprint calculation is being a total success since we launched it. And I think that a big part of the success is because the amazing design teams that we have, they researched the consumers before actually designing the carbon footprint calculator. So we did a lot of user tests. We wanted to make sure that we were getting this right because we are the first bank in our footprint to offer this type of solution. And we didn't have any prior market analysis. So we need to make sure that we were offering information to customers that was relevant, that was meaningful, and that was actionable. So I'm going to share some conclusions that we reached in the market research. It turns out that we can segment the consumers in 4 different groups. Group number 1 are the environmentally conscious people. So those are consumers that are going to act on sustainability recommendations just for the sake of environmental concerns, for climate change. They are active sustainability ambassadors, and this is a relatively small group nowadays. However, this segment is expected to increase over the next years. This group is already active in their transition to a greener lifestyle, but occasionally they might be interested in financial support for undertaking some investments. And we need to offer carbon offsetting and compensation mechanisms because this segment is really interested. Second, when we introduce the financial health component and we start talking about saving money while you are making a positive impact on the planet, then the group of interested consumers becomes relatively large, and this is the dominant group in society. So this segment is interested in helping the planet, but they don't know where to start. They are overwhelmed, so they appreciate some guidance. And this is BBVA's main target group when we talk about sustainability. The third group believes that climate change poses a real threat, but they think that there's nothing that is worth being done at an individual level. So they tend to shut out those thoughts because they believe that the entire responsibility is on the governments, mainly the US and China and India, not us. We as individuals don't have much to say, right? So this group is also relevant for us because we can start to educate them and we can make them aware of their individual impact with the carbon footprint calculator. And we can start showing easy, simple recommendations so that they can reduce their carbon emissions. And then there is a fourth group of some people that are skeptical about climate change and they like to believe in conspiracy theories and so on. So those are the negationists. But this group is quite small, fortunately, and it is expected to continue shrinking. So I believe the segmentation applies to most European countries, perhaps with some minor variations in the proportions. You can think about this for a while. In which of those four segments do you stand? So as you can see, except for those few negationists that are still around, the carbon footprint calculator makes sense, and it can make a positive impact in the majority of segments of society. How? Well, first we create awareness, and then we encourage people to take action. The personalized recommendations and advice that we offer are connected to a comprehensive portfolio of green products that are specifically designed for helping our clients in their transition. So reducing emissions has a positive impact, not only on the environment, but also on customers' financial health, which happens to be another one of BBVA's top strategic priorities. And remember that, according to our market research that I just mentioned, nowadays, the lever for mobilizing the largest group is by connecting sustainability with personal savings, with financial health. So for example, we can encourage customers to save money by replacing their gas boiler with an eco-friendly technology, or we can improve thermal insulation at home, or people can remodel their houses for achieving a higher rating of energy efficiency altogether. Becoming an energy producer with solar panels is probably the best way of becoming net zero at home. Although most families in the Iberian Peninsula live in flats, in large buildings that are shared with several families, we should be thinking about solar panels in apartment buildings. Why not? Not only in individual houses. And we also offer financing for electric or hybrid vehicles, of course. So in the end, if we use energy more efficiently, it results in lower consumption and therefore economic savings. So it's good for our customers' pockets, and it's even better for the planet. However, all these actions require upfront investments, and those can create uncertainty and doubts. Will I recover my investment? How long will it take? So part of the advice that we will offer is precisely oriented to giving clarity and confidence to our customers so they can fully understand the timeframes of those investments, right? And giving this advice proactively requires having precise data and robust algorithms in place. Good. Another field within sustainability where data is essential is in climate change adaptation. So far, I've been talking about climate change mitigation and net zero. So this is all about tackling the causes of climate change and focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The other strategy, which is complementary, is adaptation. It's preparing societies and ecosystems to better handle the negative effects of global warming. It's creating climate resilience. We are engaged in several projects for developing algorithms that model economic resilience to natural disasters. And we do this using financial data. By analyzing financial transactions as simple as card purchases and ATM withdrawals in a specific area affected by a natural disaster, let's say before, during, and after a hurricane, for instance, we can derive proxy indicators of the economic impact and market resilience in that affected region. So models like this can help highlight social and economic vulnerability, and they can also encourage authorities and private entities to invest in community resilience. The BBVA Microfinance Foundation is committed to investing in community resilience and social sustainability. And we do this by financing education, entrepreneurship, environmentally friendly agriculture, and eco-efficiency practices. It turns out that decarbonization is a great opportunity for emerging economies for various reasons. First, because climate change is expected to have a more severe impact in a lot of emerging markets, especially the ones in tropical zones that are very vulnerable to increases in sea levels. And second, because emerging markets have enormous potential for renewable energy projects. So correctly assessing the potential of those projects in emerging markets in order to channel the necessary financing, and then following up on those commitments, all of that will require new data sources and new data structures and new data models. So to wrap up, I'd say that banks can play a key role in mobilizing and engaging people towards sustainability. Why? Because people trust banks to keep their money safe and to receive professional advice. And because we have quite a bit of data of customers' everyday lives in order to offer the best personalized advice, also when it comes to sustainability. We've started off creating awareness. Awareness leads to action, and action can change the world. BBVA is taking the lead on this, and we are really proud and excited about the next steps. So I'd like to finish by saying it's been an honor and a pleasure to be part of this DCPA event. Muito obrigado.
Thank you so much. It's all about action now, I guess, and we've heard that throughout the morning. It has been a fantastic morning with amazing presentations and challenges and hot topics. You brought new dimensions to the discussion, to the panel, so thank you very much for your presentation. We could be here for a good chunk of time now. We got to let these people go to lunch. All of us, of course, will be back after lunch. Again, let me just share with you and with our viewers, your video did not go on at the beginning, did not start adequately, but we're going to be sharing it online early next week together with all the sessions and presentations. Sorry about that. Thanks for the video also, of course. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be engaging with you further on for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.